Hi everyone, are you ready for your science? So today's lesson is going to be about electricity investigation. But before we start, you need something to write with, something to record your work with. And let's get started. Monday, 18th May 2020. Learning intention is to plan an investigation, to understand variation in how components function, and our success criteria. So by the end of the session, you should be able to select an appropriate scientific inquiry, to plan an investigation in details and decide which variable is to control, and also to explain variations in functions. Okay, so the question we are going to be investigating is, does wire length affect how components in a circuit work? And in this case, the component we're talking about is, let's just say, a light bulb. Do you think if we use shorter wires, the bulb would be brighter or dimmer than if we use longer wires? I want you to think about what your answer is going to be and write your prediction down. So I want you to write down, I think that if you have shorter wire, the bulb would be brighter or dimmer because, and you need to give your reason, scientific explanation why you think that. Okay, off you go. Planning your investigation. You will need to think of a question to answer and to predict what you think will happen. In order to carry out the investigation, you will need to choose which type of investigation is the most appropriate to answer your question. Okay, so you could carry out a practical inquiry, which is a simple practical inquiry, is one where you just observe what happens, or a fair and comparative test. Okay, so in a fair and comparative test, you have to record observations, measurements, compare the results, and spot patterns. Making your test fair. In order to make sure you carry out a fair test, which means that your results are accurate and can be trusted, then you need to be clear about the following. What you will change and compare each time. So that means you need to make sure you only change one variable. Okay, in our case, it will probably be the length of the wire, and which is the thing that we are testing. And other things that you will need to think about is what you will measure. Okay. In a circuit, what do you think you might measure if you did a complete circuit with a light bulb? Maybe the brightness of the light bulb, maybe? What do you think? Or could be the sound if you're using a buzzer. You decide. And also what variables you will keep the same, so which is going to be our control variable. Keeping all other variables the same except for the variable you are testing is very important, because it makes sure that your results are caused by the changes to the variable that you are testing and not other things. Okay, and we've done quite a lot of science investigation, so it's like with all the other things that you've been doing. So making sure everything else stays the same, and think it through in a circuit. What other things could you be keeping the same? Maybe using the same number of batteries, bulb. Okay, so the question we're going to be investigating is, does wire length affect how components in a circuit works? Okay, so I'd like you to write a prediction. I'd like you to predict what you think will happen. Think about what difference it might make. Okay, what difference might it make to what component, and to which component or part of the circuit will it make a difference to if you made the wire longer? All right. Once you've done the prediction, I want you to now move on to thinking about what are the factors that you're going to change. What is the one thing you are going to change in your investigation? And I want you to write that down. And then I want you to think about what will you do and how will you measure this? How will you measure the results? Okay, so I want you to write down what you think and how you think you will measure. And the other thing I want you to think about is, what variables will you keep the same? So I want you to list all the things that you will have to keep the same for this investigation. Off you go. Okay, in a scientific investigation, we also need a list of equipments in order to carry out the investigation. So think about what equipments are needed to make a complete circuit, and then think about the question, so the thing that you're going to be changing. So in our case, we're changing the wires. So we probably will need a short wire and a long wire. And maybe if we're going to check to see whether the light bulbs brightens or is dim or bright, then do we need a buzzer? So I want you to think about what equipment or components you're going to need, and I want you to write that list down. Okay, once what you're going to do now is write down how you would carry out the investigation. So you're going to write the method, and I want you to think about step by step. So step one, what's the first thing you're going to do? What's the next thing you're going to do? What's after that? And number your steps. And even if you need to draw diagrams to show what you're going to be doing. Okay, so think about your creating a simple circuit. And if you're not sure, watch the first video or the second video that I've put of creating a circuit, and that will give you some ideas. And also think about how you're going to change your wires. So first circuit, and then are you going to do with the short circuit wire, and then afterward do with a longer wire. So now you have written your investigation all up. I'm going to do a demo video of showing you what it's like, and then you can write your observation of what you notice. Okay, so that would be your result. So you can actually see whether the bulb is dimmer or brighter using longer wires and shorter wires. All right, so watch the next part and then record your results down. All right, off you go. I've set up this simple circuit. If you press the switch, and I want you to observe the brightness of the bulb. So as you can see, it's quite pretty bright, right? What we're going to do is we're going to test out using different length wire. I've got here 4 different lengths of wires, so I'm going to use the longest and the shortest to do this. With the long wire, record your observation of what you notice with the brightness of the bulb. Okay, so now you've watched my demo and you've recorded the results. You're going to now write the conclusion for your investigation, and in here you are going to try and explain what you have found out from your experiment, from watching the experiment, and write down what you thought would have happened. So I want you to look back at your prediction and say, was your prediction correct, and if not, why? And I want you to think about how would you move this investigation further? What would you like to do next? And how you could improve the investigation.